So these are all the things you're gonna need. You're gonna need a hammer, some wire cutters, wire strippers, some cutters. You're gonna need some electrical tape, some Tessa tape, a heat source. Oops, sorry, a heat source. This wire crimper for thicker wire from I think like 8 gauge to 0 gauge. This depinner, if you decide to depin it, you don't have to. And then you're gonna need some 6 gauge wire depending on where your fuse box is located. You're gonna need more if the fuse box is obviously in the engine bay. And then you're gonna need some 3/4 loom. You can get this on Amazon. I'm gonna have a breakdown of everything. And then 1/4 inch loom. And then you're gonna need obviously some copper crimp connectors. And then you're gonna need these for the 3 wires going into the ECU. So basically I'm just gonna keep the same length on this. I'm gonna keep the same length on this big wire right here. This is just gonna stay the same. I'm just gonna wrap that into 3/4, and then I'm gonna keep the ground to that middle plug. I'm gonna keep that the same. So I'm just gonna wrap that in Loom too. And then I already got ahead of myself and cut the wire off of this, and then crimped it. You kind of just smash it with the tool right here that I got off Amazon, and then you heat shrink it. And then this third connector right here, this is a connector that you're either going to depin or you're just gonna clean it up. There's gonna be 2 parts of the harness or the connector or whatever you want to call it. One, you're gonna kind of tell it kind of bundles all together and goes straight into the steering rack as well. That you're not even gonna touch. Then there's gonna be there's 3 or 4 other wires that are here, but you're gonna need to find out what 3 you need for your setup. They do vary for different years that the power steering came out of, and I decided to depin mine and only leave the 3 wires for a cleaner look. And then one thing I also forgot to say is you're also going to need some 18 gauge wire to extend this side of the harness. And then you are also going to need 60 amp fuse. I got this off Amazon. 60 amp fuse, and that's what's going to go in between this wire, the white one, and this wire. And then the other side of this is going to go into your fuse box. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I got a price breakdown on what I spent. I spent right around $100 to do this. There's a kit out there that's like $500 or $600. It's crazy, but for people who don't like to spend money like myself, this is a much more feasible option. So yeah, I'm gonna just do a little time lapse of me doing all the work. So once again, I am putting this wire in. Like I said, I kept it regular stock size. It's split here in the middle, so you just tuck it in. Make sure it's in there, fold it over. You'll know when it's in there. And then you just do it all the way to the bottom. So I'm just going to be putting some of that Tessa tape just on the end, maybe in the middle, and then on the other end, and that's it. And boom, yeah, she's done. Like I said, just taped it, put in the loom, some tape in the middle, and you're done. Boom, that wire's done. On to the ground wire now. So now you're gonna where your OEM connector would be, you cut it off. Then next you would obviously cut just a little bit below. I would say about a 1/4 inch-ish, maybe a little bit above. I don't have my wires. I don't want to cut through the strand, so I use a razor blade and I kind of just smoothly go around it. You know, not too deep. I don't want to, you know, nick the wires or anything. I just want the insulation off. And then you put it in, and then you put it in here, and then you just lift this handle up just a little bit, and then you kind of let it fall where you want it. You make sure your wire is nice and tight in there, and you just whack it with the hammer. You just bow, and you know you're good. And then you slide your heat shrink over it. You know, heat it up with a lighter. Just go back and forth until it's nice and tight, and you're done. You're done with this wire. So I am gonna move on to the wire on the other side that is gonna go to the fuse box. One thing I forgot to mention, guys, is this wire right here, depending on where your fuse box is, if it's in the stock location, you're gonna need more of this 6-gauge wire. If you're like me and you have your fuse box tucked under your passenger side dash, you just need a bit. I'll let you figure out how much you need. I know I'm gonna have some slack in this, but I don't mind. I'm gonna hide it and I'm gonna tuck it really good so you can't even see it. But yeah. And then just for safe measure, just pull on your wire really hard. You don't want to aggressively hit this either. You know, you don't want to over crimp it. You just kind of want to just give it a good, nice, subtle whack with the hammer. Yeah, and it should look something like this. Just tug on it, make sure that, you know, it's not gonna come off, it's not going nowhere, and then it's gonna be ready for some heat shrink. So next it should look something like this, and then we're just gonna loom and be done with this wire. So my phone died on me, but I ended up looming this one. I think it's just the 1/2 inch is slightly a little bit bigger. You might need to, if this bothers you, you might need to go with 3/8, but it doesn't really bother me. It's going under the dash for me anyways. But if you're routing it to your fuse box, then you're probably gonna want to apply the 3/8 just to make it look cleaner, you know. So the next thing is gonna be connecting your inline fuse. So boom, I went ahead and loomed my power wire going to the fuse box. I loomed this, and then I connected it to my inline fuse, and we're done with this part of the harness. We're done with that part of the harness. Everything's loomed. And now we can put our cover on. It is a 60 amp. I'll put a link in the description of this video. And then put it on there, and boom, got your inline fuse and everything. And we're done with that side of the harness. So for this next one, it's gonna be our third connector. We already got done with the other two, so I'm talking about that third one right there. We're going to separate the strands. Usually there's like a couple other ones in there, but I depinned it. That's why you might need this kit. I put that in the cost of everything. And then you'll see like 4 wires all going to 4 or 5, maybe even 6. You'll see the strand that goes to the actual rack. You don't want to touch none of this. Maybe clean this up, tighten it up with a little bit more electrical tape before we loom it. I'm just gonna put some electrical tape on here just to kind of tighten these wires up and keep them together, and then I'm gonna loom it just like I did the other ones, and then we will extend these 3. So to speed this up, I already loomed the strand that goes to the steering rack, and then I already did 2 of the wires just to speed things up. This third wire, I'm going to show you guys what I did. I pulled out the heat gun, some solder, and some heat shrink. All you want to do is literally just you want to grab your strippers. This is an 18 gauge, so just put it on the 18 gauge, strip it, and then next thing you want to do is you want to grab your 18 gauge wire. Come on, you grab your 18 gauge wire, and then you want to strip that as well. Oh wait, no, that was 20 gauge, and this is 18 gauge. So just strip it. You know, kind of want to keep that same length right about here, 1/4 inch, I believe. And then you just want to kind of slide them together, and then you want to twist them. Shit, you want to twist them like that. Oh shit, let me really do that. You want to twist them, put them together, and then just twist. Twist, and then you want to put it into the helping hands. I'm gonna put this into the cost of the video because I forgot to put, and you might not even need to extend these wires. You could probably just get away with the factory ones, but I cut them, and I think I cut them too short, so I'm gonna extend them anyways. So you just want to turn your soldering gun on and just hold it right below the wire. Oh crap. You want to hold it right below your wire, and then you just want to wait till it heats up. You'll kind of see it start smoking, like right there. Just hold it between the wire, and then put the solder on top, and then once it's hot enough, you'll see what ends up happening is the solder will just fall into the wire. Boom, like that, and you're done. Don't want to breathe none of that stuff in. And then you just want to, so you have the exact same length as the other ones. You kind of want to just take this off. You want to grab your other ones that you have already done, and kind of just run your hands like this all the way till you get, crap. Right till you get to where the same length of the other ones. So I want to say right about there. I want to say right about there. I'm going to cut like right here. So boom, now I got my 3 wires. Next, you're just going to literally just loom all these 3 wires, and then yeah, and then we're gonna put the connectors on there, and then we'll be done. So I'm done with the looming, and it should look something like this. Like I said, if I have access of anything really, I'm gonna make sure that I you know, either cut it and redo it and shorten it, or I'm gonna zip tie it. Regardless, I'll figure it out. And then I'm gonna splice these because I'm gonna crimp them here in a second. Okay. Should look something like this, and then you're gonna grab this kit, and you're gonna look for your 18 gauge. which is gonna be these three. I'm gonna label these. I'm gonna put some green tape over them and label each one so I don't forget which one is which. Even if you do forget, then you can just unloom this all again and redo it and see which one's which. I know which one's which, just because of the wire, but yeah, you just slide these bad boys over and then you just hit it with some crimp like that and you're done. Okay. Pull on it, make sure it's not going nowhere. You're done. And then slide that one over, same thing. Make sure it's on there. Crimp, done. And then better crimp on that. Boom. Yeah, it's not going nowhere. That's not going nowhere. That's not going nowhere. So next I'm just gonna tape them and I'm gonna put labels on them. I'll show. I'm not gonna show that, but yeah. And then in the kit, there's gonna be your connector for your wire, which is gonna be this red one. And these are, I'm not gonna do this yet, but these are gonna be to these 3 wires. And then once you're done, you just slide this bad boy over, boom, plug into the wire, you're done. Yeah, I'm just gonna label these and then I'm just gonna do a little video on how the harness looks and be done. So I'm pretty much finished up with the harness. I labeled all my wires. I did have to pull out my heat gun, solder, some electrical tape, and some heat shrink for my 3 wires. Only because I cut these, so I'm not sure if I really needed to extend these, but I did anyways. And another thing I wanted to take note was that the 0204 is different than the 0205, so make sure you find your 3 wires. On the 0506, I believe it's on connector E. It's on connector E. For 0204, it's listed on here. I haven't looked into it. Like I said, I'm on 0506. And then make sure that when you figure out which module or brain box you got for your electrical power steering, because these 3 wires that run to the that are going to get clipped into the harness that goes into the ECU are placed in different spots here. Sometimes they're like a couple spaces over, and and they're also different colors. I'll post a picture of that in the next clip. But yeah, just be super aware of that. And this is pretty much all I can really give about information on this stuff. I thought I'd make this video just because I was kind of struggling a little bit, because there's like so much different information on the internet about this stuff, but I just wanted to see if I could make a video that could probably help somebody out and save somebody from spending like $500 on loomed harness. This is like a cheap budget way to go about it and still look clean. So